Think of it as card counting. Legally, you're allowed to do card counting with investing. It's a game of odds. They're increasing their exposure, their risk, at the point where you have the greatest chance of going down. So now you're in the fear mode. You sell. Well, what happened? You reduce your exposure, your risk, at the point where you have the greatest chance of gain. The more you view your investments as an extension of who you are, instead of just looking at it as a jumble of investments, the less you're going to get upset during, those market extremes.
Are you ready to live a life with enough time, money, and energy? Have relationships and connections that delight you? Are you ready for the extraordinary life you know you've been missing? If so, then this is the place for you. I'm a best-selling author, coach, consultant, and speaker who's worked in technology for over 2 decades. I'm a leader at transforming people and organizations from operating in fear, obligation, and guilt to running off joy, ease, and love. It's time for Engineering Emotions and Energy with me, Justin Wink, Ph.D. All right, welcome. Today, we're going to be talking about money, balance, joy, and how it can be in your life and your workplace and really anywhere that you are, because why wouldn't you want to have all of these amazing things? And to help me talk about that, I've got Michael here, who's helped well over 10,000 individuals and financial advisors have more fulfilling lives filled with that money, balance, and joy. He's done this both inside and outside of the financial services industry. On the inside, Mike has had senior sales manager roles. On the outside, he's an author, coach, consultant, and full-time critic of most of the wealth management industry. Mike's book is titled Money, Balance, Joy, Improving Your Life Story. You can get it on Amazon. We'll make sure to have links, but you can also find more information about it at moneybalancejoy.com. So this book, it's a launch pad to basically, he wants to help millions of people improve their life stories. So welcome to the show, Mike. So good to have you here from over in New York State. So this is a coast to coast episode of Engineering Emotions and Energy. So welcome. And I don't know, maybe if you want to just start with why did you write the book? Because as another fellow author, it's not the easiest thing in the world to do. It's you got to feel like there's something important to go through the process of writing a book. So
Absolutely, Justin. So glad you reached out, or your assistant, I'm sorry, reached out to me to be on the podcast, read your book, Engineered to Love, and could see why you would be attracted to my book and talking with me, because there's a lot of similar views but different approach. So with the book, I kind of felt that it took 30 years or so of work to get to the point where I could put it in all that I knew, all that I've seen and helped people with, and they've helped me with, that now I could put it in a concise, useful guide so people could be on a journey rather than just throw a lot of information out to them. And to me, a self-help book that all it does is have people feel good that they read it, but really doesn't affect change, is just entertainment. So it took a lot of years and practice, if you will, with the messaging to be able to come up with the book. And yes, it's very difficult, and I have typically been very good with ideas and writing. And I remember the first draft I put together, gave it to some friends who in the industry, in the financial services industry, and lost them. And and so then I redid the whole book, rewrote the whole book, and still had some people who came back to me, more stories, more this, less that. You're still losing me in this particular area. So somebody, I can't remember, said, if you want me to give a 5-minute speech, it'll take me a week to prepare. You want me to give a 45-minute speech, I could start right now. Something to that.
Yeah. I've
And
done Toastmasters, which you mentioned in the book. It's like Toastmasters can be part of that joyful life, or if that's what you want to do. And
yeah,
but yeah, the 5 minutes is way more challenging than if you have an hour. Where
yeah, exactly. And so the book is like that. When you think about it, it's you know having that, giving that 5 minute speech versus giving that
Yeah, because
45
it is
minute
it is
speech.
to the point, easy to read, and it's some big concepts that I think a lot of people might not have figured out. Like I think most people think like, well, the point of life is money, and money's complicated, hard, challenging, and it's yeah, it's got to be so hard, and you kind of blow that out of the water that it's like, no, the point of life is not money, and there's actually a whole lot more, and money's kind of a tool, or it's one aspect, and that this whole industry doesn't have to be as complicated maybe as it is, like that it can be a lot simpler, and it's a whole lot easier if you have somebody to work with and you don't just do it on your own.
Yeah, it the funny thing is I was very fortunate where I grew up. And my father was a businessman, lived in a relatively wealthy community, belonged to a beach club. So a lot of times sitting around with the older members of the club, and there's certain things I would see and hear from them. First, they were all relaxed. They were all
Mhm.
happy. There wasn't that person who was,
Yeah. And so
chain
by
smoking.
members of this club, I'm guessing this is like kind of an exclusive high-end people of high net worth of means. Is
Yeah,
that
yeah, yeah,
okay?
beach club. Yeah, so they,
Okay.
yeah,
Because
one of our
there might be some
members,
listeners that are like they because like until I moved to the San Francisco area and started like having some friends that had done well in tech and stuff, like I didn't know there was such a thing as like private clubs type of a thing. Like I'm like I grew up in like suburbs and there's no such thing. It was just like, oh yeah, the pool or whatever. So I'm like, so I'm with you. I just want to make sure our listeners are with
yeah,
me that like this is
yeah, one of our members was a soap opera star.
yeah.
Uh, but the thing I would see and hear from my parents is that that total wealth approach, that holistic approach of, yes, having the monetary wealth, but also the time wealth and the social wealth, and that it helps you. It's the same reason why some companies insist that people take 2 week vacations once a year to kind of decompress, get out, and kind of sharpen the axe blade. But it was the same thing, that no, it's if all you do is focus on money, you're actually going to make less money. That
Hmm.
you need to have time to yourself with friends, have that social wealth, because each feeds the other. And certainly, like with the beach club we belong to, if you were wealthy enough, you could live in that neighborhood, join the club, and be exposed to people and ideas, so that would help your monetary wealth. And it was an interesting town, because we had a lot of famous people come out of it. Jerry Seinfeld, Brian Setzer was in my class.
Oh wow.
We had infamous people, mafia people that were in the newspapers. I told you this, the soap opera star, TV weather, big TV weatherman, all these different people. So the and Alec Baldwin and all these other people came out of, many people. Speaking of authors, uh, the author Born on the 4th of July. So it was interesting kind of town, where you had that feeling, well, if these people could do it, why can't I do it?
Yeah.
Versus, oh, I can never be success. Very different attitude. Not, oh, these people have something secret or something really great, and so, yeah, I'll never be successful. And where I grew up, it was, well, these people are successful. Why can't I be successful?
Feeling overwhelmed by the daily grind? Imagine if you could pause, reset, and truly connect with a calmer, more fulfilled you. It's not just a dream, it's absolutely possible. Hi, I'm Justin, and I invite you to discover the life-changing techniques in my book, Engineered to Love. Right now, I'm offering a free chapter complete with guided audios that have already helped so many people find peace amidst the chaos. These aren't just any techniques. They're transformative practices designed to help you love yourself and engage deeply with the present moment, without even having to close your eyes to the world around you. So join us at engineeredtolove.com/sample and access your free guided session. It's time to bust the busyness and embrace the joy, ease, and love in your everyday life. Don't wait. Start your journey to a more relaxed and recharged you today, because you deserve to live a life you love. Visit engineeredtolove.com/sample. See you there. Yeah. And it's, it's some people they have advantage in some ways. One of the advantages I think you're pointing out is just sort of this attitude of money and how it fits into the whole life. And in some ways, I feel like that's maybe like the bit of the point of your book is to give that advantage to as many people as possible. It's like, you can have this attitude too, even if maybe you weren't born into it, but you can have this as part of the relationship, and then it will lead to, the numbers going up, while also, the joy and the balance and the other things. And that's the concept. What do you call the concept? It's like your total life wealth.
Well, total wealth or
Total wealth.
holistic
Yeah.
wealth. It's so, so much of your book and success, you talk to a lot of successful people, is about giving back. It's not me. It's, I want to help people. I want to, you look at Steve Jobs, I want to change the world. He went to Scully, who was the head of Pepsi, I think, do you want to just continue selling soda water or sugar water, or do you want to change the world? And so love the stories, because I would help advisors get out to clients and prospects with this emotions-based approach to wealth management, this total wealth approach. And the responses they got, universal, of people coming to them like, this is so intuitive. This makes so much sense. I wish I knew this 20 years ago. You've changed my life. And that's so cool. And I could do over 10,000 people. Well, I want to change. Call me Steve Jobs here. I want to help over 1 million people now. And
Yeah.
The book, it's like when people run for president, they write a book and, it codifies, who they are, what they can do. And it's the same thing with your book, my book, any of these type of, self-awareness journeys, holistic life improvement journeys. The book helps you do that.
It's definitely also an emotional journey, and kind of what you're saying is reminding me that so much of financial, I don't know, richness, wealth, that from what I've noticed often correlates to sort of emotional resiliency, or the ability to handle emotions and ups and downs and things like that. In fact, I think I just about to re-release a podcast on my YouTube channel where it's called be the undercover boss of your life. That's basically act like your whole life you're the CEO, in that I've had the chance to see a number of CEOs in action. The one thing I'd say is they never really get all that upset almost about anything. They're just kind of take stuff in and consider, and then decide, and then move forward. And there's whereas I think back to when I was younger, it's the smallest thing and I would freak the fuck out and be like, oh my gosh. And now it's where I'm just like, well, okay, let me breathe into that. Let me take some time. Like, how does it, it's still making decisions, but it's just like this wealth of being able to deal with emotions and just life has correlated with the financial numbers. And I'm curious if you found that or see that, and that's one of the things that somebody can help you with is it's the emotions. That's really the thing. That's the real currency in a lot of ways.
Yeah, I mean, there's three key emotions with investing that even many financial professionals fall for, or two that they fall for, and one that they don't subscribe to or work with it. And I remember when I was starting to talk about this to some financial advisors, they're like thinking, oh, this is only individuals that do this. Surely I don't do that. And surely, all these brilliant people. So you look at the Great Recession, where the mortgage crisis happened. And if all these people didn't fall for the greed emotion and AIG with insuring these bonds that never should have been insured, they looked at it as, wow, this is just free money for us. We'll never have to pay out. These big investment banking firms, part of, in my book, I call it the financial industrial complex, and doing, oh, we're greedy. And look what happened. Bear Stearns went out of business. AIG had to be bailed out. Solomon Brothers went out of business. And banks that had to be bought by other banks. Jamie Dimon was contacted when all this was hitting the fan and, oh, you have to buy this big mortgage company. He didn't want to do it. And he's like, no, why? I was smart. I kept a cool head. I didn't get greedy. And we did really well. So guess what happens? He's forced into it, just like all these
had to be the adult, I guess.
Yeah, and all these banks had to take money even though they didn't need it, because then all the banks got the money. And what was the reward? Well, then Jamie Dimon and Chase had to pay all billions of dollars for the sins of the greed of the company they acquired.
Yeah.
And it was like,
so
Mike. Anyway, but that's, so you have the greed, you have the fear. So what happens? The markets go down. For some people, it's only 10% down, other people 20, 30, 40%. All of a sudden it's sell, sell, sell. And it might go down more. It might go down to zero. And you get this focus on possibility instead of probability. And anything's possible, but it's not probable. And so people get out. And then what happens? They sit on the money, sit in cash.
Well, they locked in the loss.
Yeah, they locked in the loss. They're now sitting on the cash. Many financial advisors, many financial institutions did this. And so what do? They want to make sure first, is this a dead cat bounce? The market starts going back up, and in my book, I talk about.
Now, so some people listening might not know, but a lot of the financial institutions actually get into black magic where they will sacrifice a cat and then they will drop it and see if it bounces. And if it bounces, it's kind of like Poxitani Phil, where if he sees a shadow, the dead cat bounces, that means that the economy's going back up, and then they'll invest in. That's how this is actually done. This is true. No, that's not what that means at all. What's the
No, so what happens is they're like, well, if you drop a dead cat off a building, it's going to bounce up. So
but doesn't mean the cat's alive, right? I think is that the.
No, I said dead cat. Yeah.
No, yeah. Just because it bounced doesn't mean it's actually getting up to walk around. It's like, no, it's going back down again because that cat.
Yeah, it's basic physics, and
But don't cats have 9 lives?
Well, you kill it before you throw it off. So. Or you find a dead cat. Okay, so you don't kill it. You find a dead cat already.
Please, nobody go and kill a cat and try this, and don't, because we are not endorsing or condoning anything.
Yeah,
I like cats.
Yeah,
they should be alive, but this is just a metaphor that we're having fun with. Okay.
So there's a delay So people wait, including professionals. Well, it might go back down again, or it might really go down. Think in the Great Depression, stocks went down, they came up a little bit, and then really went down. But
Yeah.
so everyone is afraid of that, and so they sit on the sidelines. So say there's a 40% drop in the average
Anything.
stock,
Yeah. Yeah.
and the funny thing about that scenario with investing in stocks, it's the only consumer good that no one wants to buy at a steep discount.
Well, except for me, I love when
Yeah,
something goes
yeah.
on sale,
But the average
especially
person,
stocks. Yeah, I know.
it's,
Yeah,
well, what's wrong with it? It's down 40%. And instead of looking at it like, oh man, this is a bargain, and yeah, I'm going to snap it up,
yeah,
and I'm going to increase my equity exposure, take money out of bonds or just reserves I have, and put it into these discounted stocks. You do it with TVs, you do it with clothes. Hey, there's a big sale, everyone runs and buys it. Big sale
right.
on stocks, not so much. So so you have those two fears, and there's studies on it that I mentioned in my book that show if you just stay in the markets
Yeah, we have
and
over 100
don't,
years of data now to show that it
yeah,
eventually goes way up.
you're
Eventually,
going to come out ahead. You got to be diversified, and
right?
you can't just be in tech stocks because whatever
Yeah,
recession
it's
it
you
was.
don't try to get the needle in the haystack. Just buy the haystack.
Yeah, just buy everything. And so the other trick, and this is kind of the secret sauce when you think about it, like so many people want to know, well, what do the super wealthy people do?
Hmm.
Well, if you're super wealthy, and I used to work with super wealthy clients, some of them household names, and they had so much wealth that they didn't care if the market went down.
Yeah.
And they saw it as a buying opportunity. They didn't panic, and they didn't get greedy because making up. See what happens is it becomes this vicious cycle. So you sell when it's down, and you usually don't buy until it's back up to when the market was, before the market
You want to
plunged.
know it's going up, and by the time you know it's going up,
Yeah,
yeah, you've missed
yeah. So
out
I
on some
really
good
want to make
gains.
sure that this stock is, so you missed, you know, 40%. Actually, with math, the gain is higher than the decline.
Yeah.
So it's gone up, whatever the math is, 60% or something like that. And okay, now I'm going to get into the market. So now you realize, oh, I missed out. So what do? You become super aggressive. I got to
Hmm.
make up for those lost gains. And then when the market's doing really strong, people confuse a bull market for brains, and they buy or increase their risk, whatever it is. Think of buying something like
Yeah.
Bitcoin-ish, but not Bitcoin. And so something that, and usually what
On
they do is they're chasing past performance. So,
yeah.
this company did really well last year, or this sector did really, really well. Sector being, say, tech or consumer goods, consumer non-durables. This sector did really well last year. So now I'm going to go in to that sector.
Yeah. And go
The
big and
problem
miss out on yeah.
Yeah, the problem with that is just because it was number one last year, doesn't mean if anything, it's probably going to drop down the middle of the pack. So people, because they made the mistake based on fear, they try to make up for it, and they get greedier. And here's what happens. You got to look at it this way. Think of it as card counting.
Hmm.
And, so legally you're allowed to do card counting with investing. So when poker card counting, okay, I know which cards have already been played, the odds of, there's only one queen left, or one
Right.
ace, or something like that, or, a lot of the small numbers are
Mhm.
gone. So the
Yeah.
odds
The
are,
odds are better.
you know,
Yeah.
the odds are better. And it's a game of odds. So it's kind of the same thing. If the market's been going up and going up and going up, the card counter would look at that and say, all right, the odds are
It's getting
greater
that it's
that
going
it's
to go
going to
down
go
sooner.
down,
Yeah.
then it's going to, go down 20%, then can go up 20%.
Yeah.
Not a certainty. So what do? They're increasing their exposure, their risk at the point where you have the greatest chance of going down. So
Yeah.
now you're in the fear mode, you sell.
Yeah.
Well,
It's a vicious cycle to the bottom, really.
yeah,
Like,
so you
yeah.
you sell. Well, what happened? You reduce your exposure, your risk at the point where you have the greatest chance of gain.
Yeah.
So if you look at it like card counting, it's a little less falling for that emotion. Now the real key thing that a lot of people miss, even the people that are able to eliminate fear and greed or sideline it,
Hmm.
is the more you view your investments as an extension of who you are as a
Hmm.
person, your values, the less, and instead of just looking at it as a jumble of investments, the less you're going to get upset during, those market extremes.
Yeah.
And
So this is would be investing into things that are in line with your values, right?
your
That
value. So
that are things that are contributing towards a world you want to live in, right? Yeah. So
yeah,
it's
yeah. So the two main ones. One's the kind of sustainability, think
mm,
environment, think of how you handle your employees, how you handle
yeah.
the environment, all that stuff. And then the other is the faith-based. And I've kind of beat my head against the wall with the faith-based, a lot in the faith-based industry and a lot in the what they call ESG, environment, social, and governance,
Hmm.
uh, because they want to change people. They're on this mission. And I was like, no, you're trying to rechannel money,
Yeah.
for the good of the country, for the good of people's faith and souls. You have to appeal with each of, those two things. You can appeal to all three types of people. You have the aware people who
Hmm.
already know about it, love the investments. You have the unaware who don't know about it, but when they hear about it, they're like, hey, that's perfect. That really fits my values, what I want. And then you have the I don't care people, and they may not have the faith, they may not believe there's such a thing as climate change, but there's still common values that they have
Yeah.
with it.
Yeah, because
And
it could just be something like I like trees. I want trees to be there. I want them to exist. So whatever that might be, companies that are not
yeah,
harming trees or doing stuff to reforest or do things in sustainable ways that, yeah, there might be a bunch of other stuff where it's like, yeah, I'm neither here nor there, but yeah, this type of thing, I'm in it. Well, I don't want to sell out of these companies that are, helping to create the world that I want to live in for myself and children and all the other people. So it's like, all right, let's ride through the tough time. Like this matters. This means something to me, right? Like,
yeah.
yeah,
And
if it's just about money and it's like, oh, I don't think that this is bringing me money, then it's like, yeah, it makes it easy to just cut and run. But when it's like, no, this matters. This is something that is part of who I am or what I believe in. And it's like, I'm going to stick through this and, ride out the rough patch and like see it
yeah,
through. Right. Well,
a
we can all be
movie.
different ways at different times, depending on what's going on.
Yeah,
Like, just
exactly.
because, yeah, in theory, I'm aggressive, but then when shit goes down, it's like all of a sudden I might wait, now I want to get, and doesn't mean that I should get more conservative with my tactics. It just means I probably need to talk to somebody and get, just to handle the emotional part of it, right? And just be like, well, it's okay, stay the course. Like, remember, here's what we talked about. Right, because I mean that's sort of what the other working with other humans all about, is to sort of
Yeah.
like, hey, remember we talked about this is the time, and it's going to be hard,
Well,
but it's going to be okay.
most emotional things that we have don't come with alarm bells or warning labels. We find ourselves, everyone thinks, oh, it's something's going to, that gets me upset, or that it's, the hot water, that everything's fine except for this one thing. And it's cumulative, and it's the old, the straw that broke the camel's back. You see it all around. And this is the thing, if all my book was about was helping people be wealthier, wouldn't have interested me as much. But there's a huge need right now for the balance and the joy part for people, and we're seeing it all around. And COVID didn't cause it. COVID just brought it out more. You hear the saying, crisis doesn't build character,
It reveals it.
It reveals character. So
Yeah.
if we're going to do like in a positive, well, guess what? Crisis doesn't doesn't cause unhappiness, doesn't cause anxieties. It reveals them.
Yeah.
And
And that's a good thing. It's actually a good thing, because then you can do something about it.
yeah, exactly. And one of the things I talk about in the book is that, a lot of people think, oh, well, you're really intelligent if you learn from your mistakes.
Mhm.
And, but you're really brilliant if you learn from other people's mistakes.
Yeah,
And
that's one of the things that makes humans amazing, is we don't have to make all these mistakes ourselves. Yeah, we can learn through
yeah,
others.
you learn from other people's mistakes.
People having had different opportunities, different experiences. And I don't know, I think I saw, one explanation of how a lot of life is. It's like, if you look at it as a race, which I think is a unfortunate analogy for how our society is set up, where it's, you're racing to have the most money. Even though I think, like we've discussed, it's like there's joy and balance are the other aspects, but unfortunately I think most people only care about the money part. But it's like, not everybody's starting at the same starting line. Like, some people are starting like almost practically at the quote unquote finish, and then other people are given like a 2-year penalty before they can even start running. And I think, yeah, it's important to have that awareness that it's like, yeah, it's not a fair race. And to me, more and more, and I think this is why the values investing and then other stuff is, a lot of people, I feel like in the past, have been like, I want to change the world. I want to disrupt things. And I'm like, lately, I'm like, no, that's not good enough anymore. That's lazy.
No,
That's 50 years. How do you want to change the world? And then, like, do you want to disrupt it to improve? It's like, you can't just do things in a vacuum anymore. I think it has to be holistically, not just, personally, but I think our society as well is like, what are the bigger implications of almost anything?
yeah, and I just see this increased with COVID again, revealing, not causing, and inflation revealing, not causing a lot of just unhappiness, feeling of isolation. And I have a whole chapter on this in my book, that there's a built-in desire for all humans except sociopaths, and we can't live our life worrying about how sociopaths approach the world. But
They're the ones running it anyway, so they're fine.
yeah, but that there's just
It's
this
kind of a joke, but not a joke. But
yeah,
there's a
but there's this
disproportionate number of
hunger.
sociopaths supposedly in positions of power, according to some studies.
Yeah, but there's this hunger for fulfilling meaningful lives. There's this hunger for community.
Let me ask you, maybe this will be like the final question, and I'll give you some, is like, what would be, if you could have your magic wand and sort of create an ideal, I don't know, is it economy or world, or just what's the ideal experience for the average person? What would you like that to be for them? And I think this is a little bit where you're going, but I kind of want to, just put it in that context and maybe
Well,
let you go. I'm curious what the
yeah, I mean, the leaders, the political leaders, the corporate leaders, the education, leaders at all levels, of kind of having this holistic money balance joy approach to everything, that not overestimating their ability to think logically. There's certain must-haves with everything. How you work with people, how you treat them with respect, how you don't take advantage of them, that you don't manipulate them. Same with your staff. And I have a really good story, speaking of sociopaths, in my introduction. And to really have this different approach, and not tribal thing that we've gone into. And I was really hoping, and yes, it was naive of me, that when COVID hit, there'd be less of this whole tribalism and us against them, working together with different views, different perceptions, if you will, for the whatever, the common good, whether it's
Yeah.
economic common good or a company's common good, or our country's common good. And it just, again, it revealed. So unfortunately, I didn't follow my own advice,
Well,
my
I
own
think
understanding.
you're talking about the 2008 financial crisis, and that some of the people that saw that coming. It might have been before we started recording, and I think you're just talking about how they were right. Just the timing was a little bit different than they had expected, and
Well, no, I'm talking
I don't
about the
know.
whole us versus them tribalism.
Well, that going away, and
Yeah,
I
and
like to think that you're right that it will go away. Just maybe the timing isn't quite what
yeah,
you or maybe I would, but I'm optimistic that it's
yeah.
happening.
So we need to.
The end of tribalism. But I want to be clear that not that like yeah, let's go into tribes and start doing it. Although that could be another type of values based investing, is the Mad Max type of value investing, where it's like you only want to invest in drugs, guns, and tobacco, and nothing else, and just fully trying to rush in the dystopian hellscape that would be
Well,
um,
it's interesting that, and I put it in the book, that if you look at the top performing stocks, I forget what number, the top 50 performing stocks over 30 years, I can't remember
like
exactly.
none of them are quote unquote sin type
Yeah, they
ones,
weren't,
right? And only like
or
two
oil.
of those types are in the S&P 500 at all, I think is what was in the. Yeah, so it's like out of the 500, only two companies have anything to do with alcohol or tobacco or something remotely, and they're not the big movers and shakers.
But it's hysterical that you'll have these people that, for purposes of investing, are flat earthers, let's call them that. These people like, well, if you're excluding stocks, you're going to hurt performance. And then you show them the performance. There's a great MSCI. There's all
Yeah.
these indices with.
MSCI is like it's similar like S&P or Dow, or
Yeah.
it's one of these types of things. And
So they do like the socially conscious stocks. They have an index
yeah.
against the other, and it's apples to apples comparison, shows an advantage
Yeah. So you
over.
can feel good and make money. You can have it
Yeah,
all. You can have your cake and eat it too. Like yeah, it's not like yeah, I don't know. Sometimes I like to turn up the contrast on stuff like this, where it's like if all you cared about was money. I've seen all the John Wick movies. That looks like it's pretty good lifestyle and a lot of money and plush, and like so just go into the hitman business, and most
yeah,
people go like, what? No, I would never. And it's like, well, okay. And so there's a limit to how you would make your money. And
yeah.
it's
I
like,
mean,
well,
if you
so
want to be,
why?
yeah,
Yeah.
if you want to be soulless, and who do people gravitate to? You usually
People with
gravitate to
soul.
that
Yeah.
person who cares about other people, who has a balanced life, who has different interests.
Yeah.
Um, but I also have lots of quotes from philosophers, the Dalai Lama,
Hmm.
poets, and uh, other people who kind of had that grasp. And it's really interesting. What we want is the person, whoever we're having helping us with, whatever that might be, whether it's a financial advisor, whether it's a therapist, whatever. We want the person who just does it and makes it look easy.
Hmm.
And a top rock star,
Yeah.
top guitars.
Hmm.
pick any of them.
Eddie Van
No,
Halen. There,
yeah,
picked
Eddie
one.
Van Halen. Eddie Van Halen isn't like, oh, I'm the greatest, and look what I was able to do. Look what I'm able to do. He just did it.
Yeah, he's just doing. He is aware he's pretty good, but yeah,
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 and they leave it up to other people to they're so confident in their ability, in this case, to entertain,
yeah.
their ability to help somebody, and they just do it. That's the type of person that you want. And the same thing with a boss or something, rather than look at me, I'm so great, I'm really brilliant, and just do it. And it's
They're doing
like,
their thing. They're giving their gift. They're serving the world with what they do. I
yeah,
think
and
that's what I want to be doing, and that's what I want to be around people. That's kind of what they're doing, and I feel like
yeah,
that's kind of what you're doing. You're doing what you do, and to benefit whoever can benefit. Like,
yeah. I mean, it's. I think, yeah. Pete Seeger. Someone had interviewed him and said, do you think all your protesting and all your singing songs about different things have really made a difference? Have really improved the world? His response was, I don't know, but I've met the nicest people, and he just had such a more enjoyable life. Saw something recently, study was done, people right before they died were asked what regrets. And the cliche is, of course, it's not working. It's not them saying, I wish I worked more or anything like that, but
yeah,
it's things like, I wish I communicated better, showed my love more with my family, and my
yeah.
appreciation of
Experience
others.
this in the world, or try
Yeah.
this challenge, or yeah,
And
yeah.
yeah, and there's this whole, a lot of religions have this. I read a book by the Dalai Lama. He had this, is that uh, there's that at the end of your life, right before you go, there's this kind of total illumination that,
Mm,
there's a famous story of a person in New York City, a young lady who stepped on a manhole cover that was electrified,
mhm.
and she was electrocuted. And
Oh,
the first thing the thing she says, "Oh, I see now. I understand." Something like that.
uh-huh.
So there's that kind of whole philosophy, or in certain religions, about that. And so, let's learn from, the ultimate thing we're all afraid of, and that's death. And that if all these people, this is what they wished for, then, again, learn from other people's mistakes, and
Yeah, so we can
have that more,
maximize the joy possibility,
yeah,
maximize the balance of
more
life.
fulfilling, more benevolent, kind of the Zen again,
Yeah, because I
but
think one thing I'll add is, yeah, just because you're not having any of that doesn't mean other people are getting more. It's like I can have more, Mike, you can have more, anyone listening can have more of that, and it just means there's more of it. It's not like, if I'm having a good life, it takes away from your good life. It doesn't have to mean that. There's some people that do believe that, but I don't think it's true. I think that we can
well,
all be living the joyful, balanced,
yeah,
financially wealthy life, and it doesn't have to, especially now more than ever, it doesn't have to take away from anybody.
yeah, it's kind of this, we've gone to this Hunger Games view of everything. And yeah, you can only get, there's some German word for it, German,
Schadenfreude,
yeah,
that one.
yeah, that basically,
You get
you,
pleasure from other people's pain. That's what
yeah,
Schadenfreude. Yeah.
and they have words for everything. But it's kind of this view people have, uh, and this. Well, I don't want to be taken advantage of. Well, you know what? To really have a great, wonderful life, there is some vulnerability. Uh,
Hmm.
there is, you have to put yourself out there. Your book, my book, both of us. same thing, showing our vulnerability, showing our mistakes, showing, as
Yeah,
I said,
if you don't step into the arena, you don't get to enjoy the thrill of the battle, the thrill of the thrill of the possibility of victory.
yeah,
Even though lately, I'm like, I want to find more like nonviolent euphemisms for things like that. So it's something I continually work, but sometimes they're just like the best, or it's like, yeah, it doesn't have to be about fighting, but for this, that's all I got. But
but
um,
there's that. Oh, I can't be weak. I can't be,
yeah, yeah.
be worried about other people, and and because this happened to me once. Well, get
But
over
I'll
it.
bring it full circle to it's like when you're dead, you're not going to be worried about any of that stuff. So it's like you might as well skip and not worry about it now and get all of the joy, the pleasure that's possible because you didn't worry about it instead of waiting till it's all over and you're not going to worry about it anyway, but you also don't get to experience the good stuff because it's the end. So
Yeah, and
might as well end all the worry now and
yeah,
start the joy now.
and also one of the great life lessons I learned, I put in the book, and it took me forever to really understand it and follow it, is you can't change people, but you can change how you interact with them. You can change, so many
Like,
people, whether it's family members or friends. Well, they never call me. So
yeah.
I'm going to wait until they call me, and the person never calls them. It's like, well, do you enjoy that person? When you're with
Uh-huh.
them, do you get stuff out of it? Well, guess what? Then you contact them.
Yeah.
And
And if not, then don't and be grateful that you're not having to put
yeah,
all this time into something you don't get any joy. Yeah.
yeah,
It's really what are you putting in? What are you getting out? And if you want something, look in the mirror. That's the person who's best going to be able to give it to
yeah,
you. And accept the things you cannot change, which, like you said, is other people. So I
yeah,
I love it.
absolutely.
I think that could be something good to end on. Is there any last words or anything you want to end
Uh,
with?
just my book, it's a journey, and they're like most things in life, happiness, joy. It's not a destination. And you can't look at it that way. It's once you get on that journey, which I equip people to do. So first is self-awareness, helping people with their self-awareness, helping them with the the moving parts, things like the emotions, and doing all that, and then getting them on their way, having exercises at the end of it. And the great thing with this approach, and certainly this very well, is that once you start on the path, you're immediately going to feel better.
Yeah.
You it it it
Yeah, sometimes
it's
the
just
starting is the hardest part.
yeah
But you
it
don't have to start alone and you don't have to go on the journey alone. That's why there's lots
yeah
of people like me and Mike and plenty out there. And I definitely do recommend the book. It's a real easy read. And, so especially if you're thinking of getting a financial advisor or have one, but you're not sure if you're getting the value out of it. Because, well, I think one of the big things is they prevent you from making the really big mistakes. People are always like wanting to get the most, and it's sometimes it's about like not fucking it up. And another person can be like, "Hey, don't do that. That's dumb." And that is way more valuable that you didn't lose the 40%, 50% of who knows what, or you forgot to do your will. And there's just all these things that are way more costly, to piddle about the 1 or 2%. That's missing the bigger point. And
well yeah, I mean, the thing is, people worry about the cost, the fee of the advisor, and the advisor adds substantially more than that, 3-4 times
yep.
what you're paying. And uh yeah, so but also people who have great advisors are working with them, but they need more time, they
Yeah.
need more kind of joy in their life.
Yeah.
Read the book as well. It's not only if you're looking for an advisor or a better advisor.
Oh yeah,
Uh,
there's lots of good stuff there,
yeah,
for sure. And
it's trying to do that.
so you can find out more about the book, moneybalancejoy.com. And I think you can also find a way to contact Mike that maybe we'll have in the show notes as well. And it's also available on Amazon, both Kindle and the paperback, I believe. So yeah, Mike, so good to talk to you.
And email me. I have it in my book, my email address. It's very simple, mike.s as in Sakraida at moneybouncejoy.com. Pretty easy to remember. And you have questions, you have challenges, whatever. I'm here to help.
Love it. All right. Thanks so much. Good to have you on the show, Mike. And thanks to all of you listening or watching on YouTube. Thanks so much. Take care and good day. Thanks for tuning in to Engineering Emotions and Energy with Justin Wink, Ph.D. Today's episode resonated with you? Please subscribe and leave a 5-star review. Your feedback not only supports the show, but also helps others find us and start their journey of emotional and energetic mastery. You can also help by sharing this podcast with someone you think will love it just as much as you do. Together, we're engineering more amazing lives.